Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Juwita binti Zulkifli.
Hi everyone, my name is Nur Hidayati binti Muhammad Nazri. Today, we will present about the goods of chromium to mankind. Chromium is a chemical element with a symbol Cr and atomic number 24. Chromium is one of the transition metal found on the periodic table and has an electron configuration of Ar3d54s1. Chromium is a lustrous, brittle, and hard metal. It is located in the group 6, period 4, block D, and the atomic weight for this metal is 51.9961 U. The color of the chromium metal is silver gray. Chromium is the 24th most abundant element in the Earth crust. Chromium can be polished to form a very shiny surface and often plated to other metals to form a protective and attractive cover. The word chromium comes from the Greek word which is chroma, meaning color, because it can form a variety of colorful compounds. The interesting fact for this metal is the trace amount of chromium can be detected in the precious gemstones such as rubies and emeralds. Rubies is in red color while emeralds is in green colors. Rubies are made of aluminium oxide which is actually clear, and when we put a little impurity of chromium, it will give the rubies a red color. Chromium was discovered by the French chemist Nicolas Louis-Vauquelin in 1797. He discovered the element in a mineral sample, Siberian red lead, now known as crocoite, and is a form of lead chromate. Vauquelin analyzed it and confirmed that it was a lead mineral. Then he dissolved it in a hydrochloric acid, precipitate the lead, filtered off, and focused his attention on the remaining liquor, from which he succeeded to isolate the chromium. At first, he believed that the method for isolating this chromium didn't yet exist. But in 1798, he pleasantly surprised that to obtain the metallic chromium is by simply heating the chromium oxide in the charcoal oven. The physical properties of chromium metal is in a solid phase at standard temperature and pressure. The melting point of this chromium metal is at 1907 degrees Celsius and the boiling point is 2671 degrees Celsius. The density of chromium is 7.15 grams per cubic centimeter. Chromium is an odorless, tasteless, and malleable. Malleable is the ability to being shaped. Next, we move on to the chemical properties of chromium. Chromium is a fairly active metal, which means it does not react with water, but it reacts with most acids. The next one is the chromium is unstable in oxygen, which it will produce the thin oxide layer. The suitability for application of chromium metal. The first one is chromium is the hardest metal, most hardness scale with a rating of 8.5. But chromium is brittle, which means it can break easily. Thus, it is ideal for alloying and steel application. The second one is lustrous appearance. It will reflect nearly 70% visible lights and 90% of infrared lights, which is ideal for aesthetic application. The third one is high resistance to corrosion. Stainless steel contains at least 10.5% of chromium that been protected with a passive layer of chromium oxide.
Okay, so now, as we have listened to Miss Hidayati before, we already know a lot of basic things and interesting things about chromium. So everything in this world has its own advantage. So now I'm going to talk about the advantage of chromium. So first thing is, chromium is a good oxidizing agent. One of the example is the chromium 6. It is hardly to be found in nature, but is a very good oxidizing agent. Thus, when it is a good oxidizing agent, it applies to lots of things today, which is manufacturing pigments and dyes, leather tanning, wood preserving, and chrome plating. Also, it has been an application as pigments to floor covering products. The second one is we all know chromium is a transition metal, so it has more than one oxidation state. So because of that, they have different mobility and toxicity due to their different oxidation states. So I'm going to talk about two oxidation states. The first one is chromium 3. Chromium 3 is non-toxic, and because of that, it has a tendency to absorb clay, sediments, and organic matter. Therefore, it's not very mobile. While the other one, chromium 4, is very mobile, and because of that, it has make up about 2-5% of the total chromium that is emitted from the power plants. The next advantage of chromium is it has been used a lot in medicinal field. So one of the example is chromium picolinate has been commonly used in supplement, but it poorly absorbed in human, as in the range of the absorptivity is 0.8% to only 1%. So it has been said that nano-size chromium picolinate has a better digestibility rate, which 1.66 times better, and has a 1.69 times a higher serum level of chromium. So it is better to use nano-size chromium picolinate compared to micro-size chromium picolinate. The other example is trivalent chromium has been thought to be used in action of insulin, and also its deficiency has been associated with the type 2 diabetes. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the application of chromium. So the first one is metallurgy. Why? Because chromium has been characterized with its high corrosion resistance and hardness. This application, along with chromium electroplating, has been the highest volume uses of the metal. So the second application is chromium electroplating. How the things work is when the chromium surface are produced on the other metal and it chromizing. For this kind of electroplating, chromic acid is used. So the next application is tanning. How this thing works is when chromium 3 stabilizes the leather by cross-linking the collagen fibers. So the results are chromium 10 leather contains about 4 and 5% of chromium, which is tightly bonded to the proteins. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you.